You're only going to find the 4xe Wrangler with the 4-door configuration, so there's no 2-door option available whatsoever. This thing is technically trail rated, and it's got water fording capabilities up to 30 inches. The Wrangler in behind me is in the high velocity paint. It has also got the available hard top. So you do have technically the soft top, hard top, the Sky One top that's available. And this one is the Sahara trim level, and I did mention it's the 4xe. So you've got the 4xe charge door there. Popping it open, sitting level 1 and level 2 support. There's a little indicator light there, and then there's also this little Jeep Easter egg. This is going to highlight when you're plugged in, and then it gives you little indicator lights to let you know how empty or full you are as you go. Looking at charge times inside of this thing, level 1 charging is 12 hours versus level 2 charging, you're looking at 2 hours instead. So realistically, you could just plug into a regular wall outlet at home and just trickle charge overnight if you're not going crazy distances. There is a level 1 compatible charger that's going to be standard inside of the Wrangler. But one really cool thing is that this thing even has an inverter available too. So all you would do is just plug it in the way that you would your charger, and it's even got power point, like a boatload of power points. So you'd have 4 individual wall outlets and USB Type-C. So if you want to use this thing as kind of like a little mobile generator, you do technically have that flexibility, which is amazing. Underneath the vehicle, you are going to find skid plates on the transfer case and the fuel tank. And you are going to find the Wrangler 4xe with the Select Track Standard, and then the option for the Rock Track 4x4 system when you get into some higher trim levels of the vehicle. There's one thing about the front end of the Wrangler 4xe that sets it apart from the rest of the Jeep lineup. It's surprisingly just the tow hooks that are painted this electric blue instead of the traditional black that you're going to find for the majority of the Wrangler lineup. This looks kind of nice though. You're going to find LED headlamps and fogs inside of the majority of the Wrangler 4xe, with the exception of the Sport S model, so the entry-level model for the 4xe. And that's going to be a halogen headlamp instead, with the option of upgrading to the LEDs if that's the route you want it to go. There is an added technology group that's going to give you the front-facing camera. So if your plan is to take this thing on trails, being able to shoot that thing in front of you is incredibly helpful. You're never going to find a forward sensing system in this thing whatsoever, though. So that's just not available from the factory at all. But I like the overall styling of the front end here. It's just so Jeep-esque. You know when you've got a Wrangler coming at you. Getting underneath the hood of the Wrangler is straightforward. So along the driver and passenger side, you've got a few releases. It's going to go one side to the other. And then once you're done, you can't actually lift it up, because this thing is technically locked down. It's really just to help out in case the latches come undone and the hood doesn't fly up on you. So if you lift up, literally right in the middle, you're going to go just off to the left-hand side a little bit, slide your hand in, and you've got your release. And you've got this, the 2-liter turbocharged engine. You're going to find a series of different engine choices that are available inside of the Wrangler when you look at the gas engine, but the 4xe is strictly going to be this 2-liter turbocharged engine. It's paired with a 17 kilowatt hour battery though too, which is just underneath the second row seats. And that gives it a combined horsepower torque rating of 375 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque, which is pretty dang respectable. And because this is a plug-in, you've got pretty decent range out of it. So it's 35 kilometers or 21-mile range when you're fully charged up. I've stressed it in a lot of my videos, and I'm going to continue stressing it again. Make sure you're at least taking your vehicle in for regular oil changes, but regularly scheduled maintenance as well. So you want to make sure you're maintaining the manufacturer's warranty, which is actually pretty respectable in the Jeep world, with the hybrid components being covered for a little bit more than the traditional powertrain. But with the cost of these things, you definitely want to make sure regular oil changes, but that regularly scheduled maintenance just means that you're going to get the best possible life out of your ride. Filling up fuel inside of the Wrangler is straightforward, and it's just along the driver's side. And it is a locked system, and that's just because it's a hybrid. So, along the driver's side, you're just going to hop in. There's a button just to the left-hand side of the steering wheel, and that's going to pop it open. And when you open it up, it's a regular capped system. I did mention the electric range inside of this thing is pretty good, 35 kilometers or 21 miles. And it's got pretty good fuel economy as well because of the 2-liter turbocharged engine. Looking at fuel quality, Regular 87 octane is all you need to use inside of this thing. So you don't need to use a 91, 94. It is a turbocharged engine, but still, minimum manufacturer's recommendation, just regular fuel. There are a few things about the 4xe that you're going to find similar to the rest of the Wrangler lineup. So you've got your full-size mounted spare along the back. The backup camera is located just right in the middle of that spare tire. Rear tow hook, and very similar to the front end, these ones are also painted that electric blue instead. This Wrangler is pretty much as loaded as you can get, with the exception it doesn't have the available tow package that you can get from the factory. When you look at adding that package on, the max towing capacity inside of the 4xe is going to be 3,500 pounds. So that's what you're maxing out at. If you need to go a little bit heavier than that, you will have to bump yourself up to the regular gas engine instead. And along the swing gate, there's a little Jeep badge there, and that's going to give you a rundown of the dimensions of the vehicle. It tells you the max water fording for your specific model and a few other details. So I did mention max water fording is 30 inches inside of the 4xe, but in case you forgot anything, it does show it on the swing gate itself, which is great. There's not too much back here though. There's a 12-volt power point along the left side, and then there's also this little plastic cover that's got a fuel tank on it. And that's actually an emergency release for the actual door. So just in case the power button isn't working, you could release it from the back as well. And then other than that, this thing is just the regular carpeted liner. Lifting this thing up, you do have access to the regular wall outlet. So it's a 20-foot cable with support for level 1 charging only. You could technically do something aftermarket, Mopar accessories, third parties, if you're looking for a 240 charger instead. So you've got some options there. It's really a matter of, are you okay with just trickle charging, or do you need to have a 240? Honestly, for the plug-in, for the size of this thing, I'd probably just recommend going to level 1 anyways, unless you're driving like 40, 50 kilometers every day, but like 12-hour charge time to go from 0 to full inside of the Wrangler 4xe is pretty respectable. Outside of that, there's also a little release. And when you lift this thing up, you're also going to find the jack stand. So if you ever need to change a tire yourself, you could. But being a Jeep owner, you've also got access to Jeep roadside assistance, and that's going to include fuel delivery, winching if necessary, with quotes, because it's not everywhere. Like, you can't be deep in the bush, but winching services are available, towing, and a few other things, which is kind of nice. But the space back here is pretty good. Now, folding down the second row seats, you can actually, well, I can reach it from the back here. So you're going to go up and drop down. But when you lower the seat that way, it's not a flat fold. But one really cool thing about the Wrangler 4xe is that if you go through the second row door, you can lift up, and then if you want to, you could fold the seat down this way instead, like from the inside. But you can also lift the cushion up, you can fold down, and when you do that, it gives the seat a flat fold. It is really cool. So there are two different ways that you can fold down the seats. That it's not a complete flat fold, just because of the way that the seats sit. There's a little bit of a lip there, but I mean, even still, there's plenty of cargo space back here. But this thing does have the blind spot monitoring system, and then it's also a heated side view mirror on top of that. The doors inside of this thing, you can push the button there if you wanted to be able to lock, or just slide your hand in order to unlock. But along the door itself, it's pretty basic and plain because you could pop the doors off. But the basics here: handle, side view mirror control, and then you've also got the unlock and lock buttons, little handle, and then a little bit of netting on top of that. On the inside, there are switches, series of different ones. So this one's going to be figuring out what's going on with your running lamps. I always just recommend keeping it in the auto mode. Button for your fog lamps, and then a switch in order to increase or decrease the brightness of the media screen or of the cluster screen. This is going to be the release for the fuel door. So because this is the 4xe, it is the locked system. And then there are 3 individual buttons down here on top of that. So this is essentially going to be in hybrid mode. So the vehicle figures out when you're going to be in gas or electric, and it switches on the fly. This is going to be an electric only mode, and this is going to be a gas only mode. So that means that it's essentially going to save up essentially saving your electric. So if you wanted to charge the battery up using regenerative braking as you drive, etc., you'd go into your e-save mode instead. Got a little speaker down there. Steering wheel inside of this thing is going to be a manual telescoping, and that's the same way across the entire Wrangler lineup. The seats. inside of this thing are nice. Now this is the upgraded McKinnon leather seat you're going to find inside of the Wrangler. Nice Sahara badge in the middle. But you would typically find cloth seats inside of it. So it's going to be cloth leather or Napa leather inside of the Rubicon X. Along the side, power seats inside of this one. So you can adjust the backrest, move it forwards, backwards, move the entire seat forwards, backwards, up or down. And then there's also 4-way lumbar support on top of that. The interior of the Wrangler is solid. I love the new highlights that you've got with the 2024 model, like the slightly upgraded cluster screen, but the big one is going to be the brand new uConnect 5 infotainment screen. I think it looks incredible, especially when you look at the previous gen uConnect 4. This is just like a complete night and day upgrade. Nice. Beautiful. Look at that. Love the new uConnect 5 screen inside of this, but the steering wheel inside of the Wrangler, nice. Premium. I like it. You do have the option for a heated wheel. It's just off to the side there. So you can button press in order to turn it on. But if you want a full walkthrough, like you want to know how to use all the different steering wheel buttons, the cluster screen, or move through the uConnect screen, you'll find a walkthrough down in the description of this video. But some basics, the pad on this side lets you navigate through the cluster, answer or hang up on a phone call, there's a voice command prompt. And then these are the buttons for the adaptive cruise control system. So you toggle it on, set, increase, decrease as necessary. So it's a very straightforward system there. The cluster inside of this is really nice. There's one thing that's unique to the Wrangler 4xe, and that's along the side there. So you can see what amount of power that you're using and how much the vehicle is charging as you go. So we are essentially in hybrid mode. So the vehicle is going to determine if we're in the gas or the electric mode. You can go purely electric or the e-save mode, which means that you're strictly going to be forcing the gas engine to come on. But you can essentially use regenerative braking, and that's essentially just a gauge so that you know how much power you're using in the electric mode or how much charge you've got going on as you go to brake. But outside of that, the cluster is very Jeep Wrangler-esque. One thing that I love about the steering wheel inside of the Jeep lineup is that just in behind both the left and right side, you've got a series of buttons. So this one here is going to allow you to seek. So you can also do a press and hold if you wanted to seek that way instead. And then you can also jump in between all of your different presets there. So you're going up and down between presets. Along the right-hand side, up and down is your volume rocker. So you can adjust your volume that way. And then you can also push the button in the middle there if you wanted to jump between different sources, like AM, FM, Sirius XM, whatever the case may be. So it's essentially whatever sources are available. But that's all through the rear side on the left and right of the Wrangler steering wheel. Along the side, so this is the new uConnect 5 media screen that you're going to find inside of the Wrangler. Two different options that are available. They're both the same size. This one is the one obviously with factory navigation, but there is an option with no factory navigation instead. So the no factory nav technically is standard in the lower trims, but you do have this available as an option. The screen is so nice though. So nice. Media support, comfort. So you've got some climate controls down the center stack, but you've got a series of advanced ones there as you go. You've got phone, e-hybrid mode. So this is hybrid specific. So power flow, driving history. You can schedule out a few things. So when you want the vehicle to charge, or if you want the climate settings to automatically come on as well. It's really cool. But like I said, if you want to walk through and how to use all of those, go through all of these different settings, you'll find it down in the description of the video. Love that we've got the front-facing camera. You can clean the camera and the rear glass. You can also shoot it out to the rear camera instead. It's nice. All sorts of options. Inside of this thing, you've got support for AM, FM, Sirius XM. You can look at a few other options. So you go to sources and see everything that's available. This thing's even got, so the old school like aux cables as well. So 3.5 millimeter still features it, which is kind of nice. If you had a USB stick with MP3s, you'd also be able to insert that in order to listen to media. But before we get there, you've got two different speaker options that are available inside of the 4xe. It's going to be an 8-speaker system standard, and then there's the option for the 9-speaker Alpine audio system instead. The Alpine audio is standard in some of the higher trims, but optional in the lower ones, with the added technology group. And it sounds really, really good. So this one is just audio coming right out of the microphone here. Today's gonna be a good day. Wake up. Today's gonna be a good day. Wake up. Today's gonna be a good. But The audio inside of this thing is really good. You can hook your phone up if you just wanted to stream audio through Bluetooth, but you'd also have the flexibility of connecting through either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay if you wanted to go that route instead. So nice. You've got your volume rocker, tuning rocker, series of basic climate control settings. So this thing does have dual zone climate control. Figure out what's going on with your fan speed. Very straightforward. Moving down, there's a 12-volt power point. Series of other power points. You've got your USB-C, USB Type-A, aux jack, and then your window controls for both the first and second row, and then a switch to kill off, power to the windows on top of that. So a little shelf down there. And then you've got 2 individual shifters. So this one is to change between either 2 high, 4 high, neutral, 4 low, or 4 high part-time. So kind of in a nutshell, you want to be in 2 high the majority of the time. 4 high auto or part-time, essentially you're going to be using these ones if you're going to be going through snowy conditions, if it's super slippery out and things like that. Neutral is if you're neutral towing, and then your 4 low setting is going to be if you're going rock crawling, pulling a boat out of water, things like that. And then you've got your main shifter, and that's going to let you switch between park, reverse, neutral, drive, or bring it over in order to go through a manual mode to adjust out gears this way instead if you want. Really nice. And then you've also got your little Jeep badge there. There's a manual parking brake. Got a few cup holders. Nice armrest with the same stitching that we saw along the seats as well. But this thing, fully lockable. And then there are 2 releases that are there too. So the top release gives you just this little storage tray. But then when you lift up, a little bit more storage down there, along with an additional USB power point, so USB Type-A. Shifting up overhead, this thing has a manual or auto-dimming rearview mirror, manual dimming in some of the lower trims, assistant SOS mode on top of that. So if you ever are off-road or you run into problems, you can call for assistance if you need it. Visor inside of this thing has a built-in HomeLink system, so garage door opener, you can program it in if you've got one at home. There's a little business card, receipt, or traffic ticket holder on the outside and the inside. Little visor with a vanity mirror and lights built in. And then this thing extends out, blocking most of the sun that might be hitting your face, which is great. So this is a hard roof, so we can easily take it off. All you're gonna do, so there are technically the 2 sides there, so you should be taking the driver's side off first, but to the side, other side. Oh, that one's already off. Perfect. And then you've got your main latch down, and then you can just lift up from there. So it's super easy to remove the first 2. The back one, a little bit more challenging, but not impossible at the same time. There is the Sky One Touch roof as well. And the One Touch is really, really nice. I was in a regular Wrangler recently with it, and just having that One Touch option, I just think is incredible. But I'm going to set the seat up the way that I would normally drive. There we go. Yeah. Okay, perfect. There we go. So this is the way that I would typically drive being 6 feet tall. And with the seat set up this way in the second row, I've got more than enough knee space, more than enough foot space. And up overhead, a little bit more, about 4 inches roughly of head space there. Not too shabby. It's good. The seats in the second row, I mean, obviously not quite as comfortable as the first row seats, but they're still pretty nice all at the same time. Decent amount of cushion here. Now, 3 full-size versions of me, I can't see being an issue inside of this whatsoever. The tricky part's going to be inside of the middle seat because of the way that the arm, like just in behind the armrest is. Might be a little bit tricky for 3 full-size adults, but if you've got kids, they won't have an issue. And then if you do have kids, front-facing, rear-facing child seats, you've got all of your tether points and anchor points and things like that. So you can easily tie them down if you need them. There are some cup holders in the seats, baked right in. Behind the first row seats on the driver and the passenger side, you're going to find a few pockets. And then just in behind the armrest in the first row, there are controls for the vents, but then window controls are there. And then there's a boatload of USB power points. So there's 2 USB-C, 2 USB Type-A, and then there's a 150 watt wall outlet in the back on top of that. Like the airbags inside of this, because the doors and the roof can come off of this thing, the airbags are actually built all the way around. So they're everywhere. So in case of a rollover accident and the doors are off, you are protected from that perspective. It's so interesting driving in a hybrid or an electric. Like every time I'm in one, is you take your foot off the accelerator, and just because of regenerative braking, it's trying to recapture that electricity. So it slows down so rapidly. Like, it's kind of wild. Nice. It's obviously not as wild as like a one pedal drive in like fully electric cars, but it's kind of cool that you can see how much you're recapturing inside of the regen braking system as you go. Woo! Love it. And that was the Jeep Wrangler 4xe Sahara. You can find the build link for this specific one, all of the build details, the tech walkthrough videos, and the contact details for Pickering Jeep down in the description of this video. But if you enjoyed this one, thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And until I see you next time, take care.